The last of the Lashkeek Needle in Gitunrach is Mike the Gnome and Elba, his mom. The last of the original Canada in Gitunrach. Lelt Hallows Hap Kleinwach are the head chiefs of the Canada, our Needle. So they're the ones that are seated in the back of the hall. They sit there and they watch what the host is doing, our Needle. They watch what we do. And then if it needs to be voiced, they get up and they speak when the feast is done. And they explain, Ton wun lo Jesus and Jüde. Ton wun ne dilo hoyach, es and Wilson. Ton wun los Oxford. You're sort of this, you didn't do this right, and there's other things. That's what our New Deal does.
Very important part of the feast hall. They're not just your guidance, but they're your community as well. So yeah, I can see how important that is to respect each other, value their guidance because they're gonna value yours one day, right? Thank you. Another definition question. This one's in regards to the Naknak. What does Naknak mean? Number 6.
I think Larry answered that earlier today when he was talking about Nana.
Mm-hmm. What is the purpose of Naknak and what does it mean if you forgot or if you want to add on to that again?
What it really means is personal spirit. Some names come with Naknak that are small names, but most of the wing chiefs, bigger names, they come with Naknak. And like I said, some of the small names come with Naknak. And some Naknak come with a song. Like my niece, Terry, her name is Navak. That's a Naknak name. And the song comes with that Naknak. So each Naknak is performed when you have in the pole raising, when you do the Oshmachal Machai, and when you do the Kalaidamints. So you use the Naknak in different ways, part of the feast. There'll be
Naknak Knowlegeable is Naknak. Los Gwelx Naknak. Jared Gad, which was the matter. Jared Act. Koch naast van Get, en koch naast van Hanak. Naknak. Act. Spirit word, actually, because was the matter. Kan lo am raad hier en lo het gemaakt, actually nog pak de benaars. Gad het willen hebben, selected, when lo sped will it. It gad it because was the man CEO. Nog actually, oh, I could just feel that presence now. This person feels the good and the bad that's coming, and he warns the house members. He warns the clan that lives in the community with the attic, because with attics at home. I Kulumati. Så det som gør det godt til attic, så de havde lavet det der, som rart mellem, fra de går om til Lalaks, så kunne I se, at de renner, der var ikke så jugtigt. De var så sattigt, de var en geolavet. Had aflaat het gehoord. Nou wil ik gerne geleerd is nog. Lang wel niet. Inmiddels is nog zo. Oh nee, maar nog een.
Very important, another huge part of Feast of Knock Knocking. I've heard over and over, you can't laugh, you can't, you take it seriously no matter what happens. And I really like that, the actual meaning, personal spirit, that really helps it sink in a lot more. From my little understanding, it helps build your name as well, hearing your knock knock, or whoever's knock knock it is. I needed more additions to that. Wanda, thank you.
Stimmt signum hanach und nicht Gwelx. Sondern oerst sim die gelem dit miau und nach dit ni litkum ni nach dit en nach dit tip am hasleels ton as 8 ton Gwelx wasn't wet. It won a good way I just wanted to ask a question about the Níl plugins and how that relates to this question, if it can be defined for those that don't understand it. Oh, yes, listen.
That was brought up earlier. I'm not sure what the meaning is as well. If anyone can help with that. How was it said? How'd she say? Me. What was that word again, Wanda? Sorry?
Níl nach lagans.
Yeah. I think she's asking for the term. What does that mean for those that don't know?
One time Frank told us what it meant. Like when you hand out the week, and if you do the Helagan hits, and you have to put money aside for the winter deck that greeted the messengers. You have to include the rest of the community, like when you hand out the week, or when you go around the second time. Frank said that's what he called Níl Levens. When you go around the second time with the week. It's a matter
Seconds. It's good when that happens, eh?
that's if you go around with the item hits.
Oh,
Melanie has his hand up.
Melly?
I spent some time with my grandfather as well, and I asked him, "Wat ga je pees kit when die kit is niet lagans?" play a repeat. You thought about it, and you know when you go around in the feast hall, as people were saying earlier about that, it's the spiritual part of each of the will. They enact the spiritual part. And I said, well, how come they do that? And when you're taking a name or going around to the head table or the head chief, and as you know, that the two spirits get together and interact. Some people will pretend they're picking bugs out of your hair or doing different things, and there has to be quite discipline. And sometimes Lujan will have a bottle of wine to represent land. And I said, what does really Neohatans mean? Neohatans, what he told me was that one spirit is putting approval on the other spirit. And when you hear the language, it's Neohatans is you're approving. You're approving of the other spirit and the existence, and I really probed him, and it's really, and when I think about it in the modern sense, it's really approving, affirming the existence of one will and another will, and the spiritual well-being of the spirit of one will and another will. It's giving formal approval, especially when you have a big name or this part of the ayok that you exchange of the ayok, that you know what you're doing. And when somebody comes to our table, we can do the fisherman, or the part of one of ours that we use quite often is getting ropes and tying somebody up and giving approval to that one person that's taking a name or doing whatever. So that's what I got from him, and really questioning, way back in the 80s, why are they doing that? It's really formal approval in our yoke to give formal approval, especially when you have a big name. And in my case, when I had to be Malu walking around with Mali, people interacted and yeah, so that's what I heard from him. So anyway, that's what I want to add. Thanks.
Thank you, Glenn. I think that about covers that question. I go on to number 7. We've heard references to employ and what it's used for, and question 7 asks, what other songs are in one's will and what are they used for? So other than the Limkoi, can you give an example of another song in your will or in others' wills and what they are used for?
Larry was telling me on the way here that one of the songs that was for divorce. He was telling me when it is for divorce, I think that's what Larry said. When we were driving up from Kitchgate, he was remembering some of the stuff. Yeah. It's your divorce song. And there's other songs,
Other songs are welcome songs. We use our Sing the Light it's called for our welcome song. And limit bit. They use that limit bit for stone movement. I see a lot of people use limit art now for stone movement, but they're supposed to use limit bit. Because limit bit is a farewell song or the war song. I was telling Wanda that one time, I said, the war song? She asked me how many times I sang that the war song. But limbic pitch is mainly used for stone movement. And another thing I wanted to reflect on that too is the stone movement. When people come to sing their limbic art, they're supposed to sing their limbic pitch. And I've emceed a lot of events, especially stone movement. I came here one time and I emceed stone movement. Bob was still alive then. And before we started, before the Winnetest started, Bob called me over and he said, tell the people that they're singing the limbic pitch for the Winnetest, not the dead. They did the art for the dead already. So the limbic pitch was for the Winnetest. They laid a blanket down for the Winnetest to do their big job. So that's when they sing their limbic pitch. That's for it.
Any other thoughts of songs used and what they're used for?
Limerick Sinat, okay.
Yep.
Limerick Sinat.
Snap.
And you're still awake for it. You're not sad anymore. Your spirit has come back to life. Limerick Sinat. Limerick art is when you're mourning. Limerick bit, as he explained it. Limerick Sinat. It's your breathing. You're not in a sad mood anymore. You're happy. You're rejoicing. The headstone is erected and the clan is happy. There's other songs, Limerick Bigwood. Larry mentioned the name Limerick Bigwood. And that's when the people all get together and they come and they sing that song to welcome the people. Please.
And yeah, just to add to that, every time I go to the feast, and I also remember my grandfather used to sing the, he called it Lint Amstad. The Willit, because his father was Willit, and he was born and raised in Louisiana into 1890s, and he learned the song, and he would always sing that, and when you look at, when you hear that song, it's really a representation of the geese that would land on the lake, as part of the song, that he described that as part of that song that they sing. And it's really a privilege to work with it, and when they do their feast, and they're the only ones that sing it, and it's really proving their ownership of that song, and also that territory was transferred into Kasish, that it's out to work with it in 1861, and they still have it. They still sing it, and it's still part of their crew that they own with Yadin. So I always think about it when I hear that song what my grandfather used to sing, and the more recent one when Steve up with it, doing their welcome, and then their house group goes around and dances in front of spears, and you hear somebody hollering out like, I can't remember what they say, but it just reminded me of my grandfather about, sounds like goose, representing the area of Michigan. So it's a really ownership and proof of our deed, or their deed, to the Lahip around Michigan area. And some of the more modern ones now, you see the Wilp School doing an enactment of a more modern song about more contemporary things around NTS, and enacting what happened there in 1986, and buying marshmallows and more modern things. And I think it's really good to begin to think about more of those contemporary things, whether it be the imprisonment of Chiefs in Guinea in 1927, or other more modern events that we need to continue to be creative of our gigs and ways and drama and those things. I want to add to that. Thanks.
Thanks, Glenn. Talking about more modern and contemporary songs makes me think of something that I was curious about, and I asked someone just a few days ago about how new songs are made and when new songs are made and why. So I'm curious to see if and when more songs will be coming out following our generation, or the couple of generations below this one. Not too many major events, I guess you can say, that would warrant having a new song, but one thing, I'll just be quick with it. I've been part of a movement, a Guardian movement across Canada over the last, I don't know, like 6-7 years. Government's now handing out funding to Guardian programs to communities and nations across Canada, allowing them to be able to be on the land collecting data and just being out there and doing what their nation needs. To me, that's a little bit of reconciliation, and it's a little bit of the other way, so to say. We can talk about that in a whole nother subject, in a whole nother workshop, but very interesting to hear about that. Hands up. Wanda? Thank you.
Nee. Het is een duidelijk som vi get van guseftig limit. I just wanted to ask the Simgiget about the Adawak, the significance of the Adawak that goes with all of the limit. And I think that's what Jimmy was touching on, like the significance of the songs. And a few years back, the family members of the missing and murdered Indigenous women along the Highway of Tears raised a totem, and we did a knock prior, when the pole was raised, as family members, and I had composed a limit op for that. for the raising of the foal and the adawak that goes with the pole. So I think if the Simbiget could talk about the adawak that goes with each limich and the significance of the oral history, I think that Smogit Malik was talking about, that goes with all of these limich and the significance behind each one. And I think the Simbalite was another one of the limichs that are significant when it comes to the Palladium hits and the Uxmarum Michach.
Thanks, Wanda. You just made a perfect segue into the next question. The next question does, in fact, talk about Palladium hits and what its purpose is. In addition to that, can you elaborate on her question on the ayuk and the laws that follow the Palladium hits?
We have different kind of songs, and it comes along with the land. In my house, we have a main Spanish song, and Kaliaks, we have a paddle song. We have a welcome song, love song. We have we call it Ludelk in a feast hall. Welcome song to the feast. There's different kind of songs we use on our lahip. That's where most of our songs come from, on our lahip. Each clan has their own songs coming out from the lahip. Kaliaks means Chris. I recently did research of Isaac's songs, and I found out I have 15 songs in my house. And there's a lady in Kitimat that has a recording of it, and we need to do a protocol to get them back. Looking after it. We do have some of them, the songs come from the lahip, and some come from the Knock. It's, some of them are funny, some of them are sad, and some of them are, a unique song. There's a song for getting with Libby. And there's a song when a person disappears in the forest, or a person passes away in the Skinner River. Some houses have it. They go down, safe course down by the river and sings a morning song for a person who never can't find it. There's quite a lot of songs out there. Each house. And I can't wait to listen to the recordings this lady have. There's quite a lot, but most of our songs come from our lahip. song called Into My, Into One, into English. There's quite a lot out there. I might even have a few of them.
When I can, Symmedeeks has a totem pole in the museum in Victoria that is 113 feet long. When we can repatriate that pole and do another one, then we'll have to let them hits go different communities. Knock on some August house, you know where they live in different communities. Right from Inspire all the way to Guinea, invite them out and tell them, Cleoch them, hit and some of these. I saw them listen to Bexon and the analogs. And Adam Hitch is a messenger. One of the things that my sisters wanted to do was go house to house and invite the chiefs when our brother is finally get to be taken home. But I think he beat that. He's come back to life again. So it'll be a long time before we have to let him hitch go house to house. That's how it was done back in the early days, house to house. They start out with the Nigel in the village, and then they go out to different villages. We go to, my yet comes from Kidney, his name's Haydn. And my yet from Kidgegukle, he had the name Malchen. And the other yet was Schaal Lacha. That was Joe Brown. But this is where the Helitum hits will go when the time happens, when I finally get my totem pole back from the museum. We're trying to repatriate it. And when that happens, you will see it being worked on out there in Gitungach. It's going to be a huge and a big event that takes place. Helitum hits. Oh, it's cost me to get as if said, double symbiote and Sigramana. Kun will it small bit. The still in some will be the way back from dinner. Helitum hits. The still in will not it. Will let it some wolves some reeks. Will let it some wolves go a lot. And Sakatos and we get Helitum hits next Jebetor. Wait. I might get carried away.
Thank you. I might get you to answer the next question after Gwen's done. That's a good start. Gwen, you got your hand up?
Get up next Wanda, what we've about and thought. I think it's a good question what Wanda asked about how the adult and the lymphoid are connected. And as we're getting ready for our court case and our title in Gitnia, we did spend a couple of years looking at that question. And for our will, the book Mali, our adult was that we originated in Gittimax, in the house of Spoke. And then we went north along the Kispelx River. We found land in the Nangeese Upper Kispelx area. And that there was an event that happened there where grizzly bear was swimming across the river with 2 bear cubs on its ears. One of the cubs fell off and drowned. The mother looked back at the edge of the river, and that's where our lift came from, right at that very spot in Nangeese, just past Sweden River. And you'll see that small totem pole, or even our totem pole standing there that has that grizzly bear in the bottom and cubs up and down that pole. That's where our Limpot came from, connected to our Adao. Past 2 summers we did a dig at a place called Gwelx, up in our territory in the Upper Kispioks. And they dated that area 4,400 years ago, carbon dating, to match when did Mali leave Gittinak from the House of Sport 4,400 years ago, and joined up with Gwasam at Gitpaskit, and then moved down to Gitnia, and still the same song today, 4,400 years later. And there are other events that what Wanda was talking about, the questions he asked about Lukhan, how they migrated with Hanakyat, with Exnagilla, and then down to Ginskoch, and then how they claimed Ginskoch, and another dig there confirmed that Lukhan was there 1,700 years ago. The same with Amlakyat at Skigenet or whatever place. But again, it confirms that how our Tao matches up with our Limpot, and also using carbon dating to match up when we were there, not in recent times. The same with Waslam, that he was there in Port and Schubert, and we were able to match it up with the earthquake and tsunami that happened there, and he left that area 12,000 years ago. And you'll see their pole in Gitnia. So those are very good questions, and good questions for our younger people to, that's our history, that's our Adao, that's our proof. That's our proof of we own the land. And that proof of Waslam's poles there, and you put one up more recently, it reaffirmed that this is who we are. You. I'm saying the Limpot. Still all our lucky. Thanks.
Thanks for answering that important question. I've heard it a couple of times be mentioned when people are trying to claim some land or claims anything really in a different house or will. Someone will ask, do you know the Adawak, or do you know the Limpot that's linked to that area? And if you don't, how come? And there's a reason. It's because it's not yours, or you don't have authority there, or something linked to that nature. So it is really important to know the linkages of those songs. Visions.
I'd like to share an out of Guxen's Limpot. Guxen had 2 sisters, and one day one of his sisters got lost on the Lahib, and she wandered around on the Lahib for a few days, couldn't find her way back. And then she started writing this song up. That's our Limpot. So that's how our Limpot came about, from Guxen's sisters. And I haven't heard any new songs yet, what you were saying. All our songs were made up in Knowlegeable. Most of our songs come out of Knowlegeable. So I haven't heard any new songs yet. Thank you.
The only one I don't even know if it's new, but to me it's new. It's that NPS song. Sort of a recent-ish history, kind of very significant history that the song was made of. Can't really think of any others though, as well. Any additions to that last question?
The poles that we're talking about, the totem poles, those are actually our grave markers. Back in the day, before the white people came in the 1800s, we had totem poles, and then when somebody died, we, at the end of the feast, we put the blanket out and we'd say, Sandra Pahamaga, Sandra Pahamaga. 3 times they say that, putting the person up back on the pole, and they don't need to buy a headstone from the white man. It was never our tradition to have headstones. It's all put on the totem pole. That was our headstone, it's the totem poles back in the day, and there was no caskets. We were all cremated back then. We're all cremated, there is no casket. In the 1800s, I went to the Museum of Man in Ottawa, and they showed me a box that they were selling to the natives. They sit a guy, looked like a little chair on the bottom, they sit him in there and then they put him in the hole. Like back in the day when they first got out caskets, they were made out of wood that looked like those Indian drums they use at OVA.
No,
That's what
come in.
that's what they used to put the white people put us in first. They're always looking to make money instead of us having our own cremation. Like we all have cremation pits in our reserves. It's nothing new. It's our tradition to get cremated. And they used to cut our totem poles down and they drift them down the river and they pick them up down there by Nasvai, Harry, drag them out of the water.
Hey,
That's why you see a lot of the totem poles in the museums. But if you really want to learn, go to the Museum of Man in Ottawa and ask to see the private collection. That's where I went. And man, it felt really, I couldn't prescribe it. I asked Mommy, you get that feeling? And she says, yeah. You see all that stuff from left right there? That's all these weapons you used to kill people. That's all these weapons in a big case like that. And they have other cases for other chiefs from Kittunga that had, I really took the time to really look at the stuff that guy took. Well, I was always talking smart to him, so he finally took me to the Museum of Man, and he showed me all this stuff. You know, I was really happy for that. And I brought my mom with me in there, and I felt the evil spirit that was connected to those Kamuna and Malach that Mom they use for killing people. It's not all knives, it's not guns, it's all homemade stuff. But remember, totem poles first back in the day were for grave markers. And there was no caskets or anything. It was all cremation done by the father clan. The father clan would do the cremation. back in the day. Okay, I throw that in while you guys were talking about totem poles. Cause a lot of guys don't realize, they say, oh, look, the nice pretty totem pole. They don't know what's added into that totem pole before it was put up.
Well, thank you a lot for that one, because that explains why they're so powerful. They hold a lot of strength in our nations, and this is truly an example of Gwelx, because it was brought up in the last panel how we never used to always have headstones, and it was more of a white man or Christian thing. And I've heard that a few times, but that's about as far as it went, with a couple of explanations. But really, that's the first time I heard that they would say that 3 times, and it's like putting them back into the totem pole. It's adding the strength again or whatever. I really like that and appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I would like to thank Paula for that explanation, because it sure helps with my learning as well. And I remember reading up on someone making a post about Godfrey Good, saying that with having all the totem poles facing the village and having the dead watch or something like that, or however he put it back then. So if I could look into that, then that is something worth doing.
Sure explains a lot, eh?
And on the topic of songs, since we're asking questions, what about the use of our songs in other nations, in their renditions of the songs that we have stories to? I understand that we did have migrations, and our people had gone up north into the coast. Because it's something that I've always thought about, is seeing some of Kijikula's songs being used up in Tlingit area, and we see the use of the Chiefs competitive being principled as well by them.
Probably if you see some of those people that use that song are actually from Kijikup. They carried it with them when they left, and they still use it wherever they live. That's why we hear songs that are from Kijikup. But another thing that my uncle and David did while Polly Sargent was at full-time at the museum, you would get them to perform dances with Kijikula songs. But if you listen to the songs that they use in the museum, it's not like the songs that we learn at home, which belongs to Ola, which belongs to Cha, which belongs to Kuksen. The wording in it is a little different. They didn't put in the full version at the dance group at the museum. That's why when I was singing my uncle's song, Lamitoya, and one of the ladies from Hazelton said, "No, you're not saying that right." I didn't say nothing. I just left it alone, because I know what they were taught was something different in the museum. But what we use is what we were taught.
From what I understand, there's a big protocol of asking permissions and stuff to use those songs outside of certain areas and stuff, and I'm sure, and hopefully they have gone through those permissions and so on. Yes, Calvin?
Outside of question, where are we, number 9? We were,
Yep.
okay, outside of that question, when the good sending which what, were heading off to court against the federal and the provincial. The dates, I don't even remember, but they went to court. Tiger, as we say this back then, they come to our meetings, chiefs meetings, and they ask you, net is aan them hoxwood, will them go to your government coroner? I tell them I'm going to have to ask my fellow chiefs first before I say yes. So I did. And Del Ramok back then was Albert Tate. Very, very elderly person. Looked at the people in the gathering place and he asked, good Western Basket, Sime, Tim Henny Hitko, what have we got to fear? We are going to be standing on the truth. And the court case went on for a few years. And when the court case was done between, they traveled back and forth, Smithers and Vancouver. When the court case was done, Chief Justice McEachran couldn't read it on black and white, so he dismissed the whole case because it was not black and white. It wasn't wrote on paper. It was carved out on wood. That's our history. Totem pole. Ni went adaw, ayoch libnego, and Silinas, lach yedemran. Ni went and jaye, ni went schanis, ni went with relax. Lach totem pole. Nicht dach jetzt zum Auge, kann die Zunge blichten. Carry on.
Yeah.
I get all fired up.
No, you're rightful to, just because they didn't understand it doesn't mean it was wrong, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a perfect example of that.
Hi.
Go ahead, Wanda.
Glenn's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was a legacy hand. My bad, Glenn, go ahead.
Oh, no, I answered long time ago.
Oh, it was a legacy hand.
Okay, I'd like to then ask more clarification on Bachmara that Roddy had talked about. And one of the reasons that I want some requesting clarification, and I appreciate the history now about that we did do mainly cremations historically, and because there was some discussion at the last session. People were concerned because we were going back to cremation, and I did talk about when we go out to do Halidim hits, and we announce the date of when we're going to be the milk the smech of our wilt member, and the reason why we refer to it as milk the smech is because we cremated back in the day. But my question is about Bachmara, and the reason I ask is because Samagit Salam Vernon Smith talked about at the blessing of the pole that was going to be carved and is near completion now for the Indian residential school survivors. The Gitsan Indian residential school survivors journeyed back to Port Alberni to school oxen, their own oxen, and then those of the people who have passed on and the children that didn't make it out of the school, as well as in Edmonton Indian Residential School. They went back and school ops and called back their spirits. So because we are our ancestors reincarnated, we were in essence really calling back our ancestors back to Gitxsan territory to bring back balance and healing, not just to the Indian residential schools, but to the Gitxsan society as a whole. And what some of you talked about was when we raised the pole, when the Indian residential school survivors raised the pole, they've journeyed back to these sites of the former sites of the Indian residential schools to call back the spirit. He said, I quote, "These spirits do not belong to us, they belong to Samagit Lakha. So when we raise the pole, we're going to send their spirits back to Samagit Lakha where they belong." And so it kind of clicked with me about doing Bakhmara, I think, but I'm just wanting some clarification around that. Listen.
In the feast hall, when the feast is done, when it's not burial of a chief or a house member, and nowadays it is a headstone, and the chief is done his job. And that's when they say the Bakhmakhtab, and they put a name to that Bakhmakhtab. And Roddy explained it that back then in the day it was put back on a totem pole, the way I understood it. That's what that Bakhmakhtab is. They put back the person back on a totem pole that was buried. Smell.
I think it's more or less the spirit of the person is put back on the pole to be reincarnated with the good Lord above somewhere. If some of you read the Bible, it says we don't go to heaven when we die. It says the dead in Christ shall rise first when the coming of the Lord. And us that are left behind will come up behind the dead in Christ. Will come up behind. So I think our dead are in a holding pen somewhere. I just about died a couple of years ago. It was something else. On the 10th day of being incubated at the hospital in Paris, I went to my wife and I said, I'm tired, I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. I was giving up. So I went out on this field. In my mind, I was walking on the field and it felt like I was walking on sponges. I was about halfway through the field there and then I see somebody call my name. There was two people standing in white and gold gown, just out of the work that I seen the two people were wearing. And they said, Roddy, where did you get the word can't? There is no such word as can't. If you work through it, you will succeed. But there is no word as can't. That's what they were telling me, two people, two angels, I think they were. And next thing I knew, I was in ICU in recovery. I came back. I had given up. I was tired. I've been incubated for so long and I was tired. It was a weird journey. I wish there was a time where I could explain the journey I had when I had COVID really bad. I was all over the world, not just in our area, but all over the world. Just flying around, doing different stuff. But that was the message that I got from up above, that there's no word as can't. You work through it, you will get it. So I keep pushing that now. I can't see very good, but I still go to my boat. I try to fix things up because I can't use the word can't. I've got to work through it and I get it. Thank you for letting me share. You guys are the vision that I had when I was in COVID. I was in the hospital for 2 months. Oh,
We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing.
Hello.
Hello. Wanda.
Maybe the yolks that I'm referring to is sex and dispola, maybe? When you send the spirit back. Like, cause that's one of the ceremonies that we're wanting to do when we do the raising of the pole for the Indian residential school survivors. This is scheduled, I think, to happen in either June 21st of 2025 or September 30th of 2025. And I think they're leaning more towards September 30th so they can involve all of the high school children at the high school in Gwelx.
Oh, nice.
that's what I think.
Maybe that's what I'm referring to, that ceremony.
Yep, that's ceremony that the chief dies and or chiefs finish their job at the headstone. Relax. And they shake it 3 times. May each week way. You know, kiss your clays.
I think that's what's gonna happen when they do that totem pole at the school. When they put it up, they're gonna do that blanket thing, yes. Maybe if Vernon's still here, Larry and George Monroe, they will hold that blanket. And Larry probably sing a song. And for the Indian residential school last, they were putting all the people back up on the spirits on the residential totem pole. And I'm glad that they moved it to the 30th of September, because the kids are going to be going to school. And what a lot of us chiefs that were there, they wanted just to use a hi-hat to put that totem pole up. And we said, no, we gotta see, those kids gotta know how to do it when they do it done like in the olden days where you use poles to push it up, ropes to pull it. That's what we said at one of the meetings, that we wanted to see that pole go up that way instead of with a machine. It's not our tradition to use a machine, it's all hand power.
Thanks for elaborating on that. Seems like something that should be done all the time, whether or not you're getting the headstone. It's very symbolic and powerful, for sure. I'm going to combine 9, 10, and 11 because they're all the same. The question is, what is Halidom Hit? What is its purpose? Share examples. I'm pretty sure we've done that in the last 3 hours.
Yeah,
But the addition to that is, what do we say to acknowledge the messengers once they're done with their announcements? So after Halidom Hit, and they're done doing their announcements, how do we acknowledge them?
well, what we do in Kitaguka is we form a half circle and we take our spirit and we hit them with the spirit, they have to catch it. But that's when, before we do that, each chief acknowledges that they received the message that the Halidom Hits come to deliver to our community. Kushan and I did a real hard one time in Kitaguka. I don't know if anybody really knows what happened. One of the feasts in Kispiox, there was trouble between the wolf and the Gispas. And they were gonna do a wolf feast. And Gushen and I, we stood by the door of the gym and we asked them, are you guys gonna do a cleansing for all you did at the feast hall? Are you going to do a cleansing? That has to be done before the feast starts. That's what Kuksen told them. Then he had to go to another feast that night in his family terrace. So I ended up in Kispiox and I was running the show there for that cleansing part. So each one of those people that were involved, we had to get a different father clan for this person, had to get a different father clan for this person. There was about 6 of them that had to be done by their father clan, but they're all Lucky Boo, but they're from a different dad. But they were making noise and they had to clean up. And what Larry and I told them at that time when we had them at the village, once you guys do this cleansing, there's no second round, it's once. If you break that rule, you're out of the feast hall, can't come back in again. That's how strong that rule was.
It's a power ball you're talking about, or that you hand over after? you
Yeah.
mentioned?
We hit them, and then they got a catch.
Any additions to how you acknowledge the messengers after we're done?
That's pretty good, just a thank you. And
نحن ولا صلاح نتمولى تمولشنا stay.
Yep.
I heard your plans and I will bring my house and will witness your event. I mean,
No?
There's a protocol before they send out the messengers. At the smoke feast, they let everybody know how many going out, how many messengers. That's the person that's going to get the name. And after they announce that at the smoke feast, they let everybody know what day, or what time, when you're going to start first. If it happens, one of the clan to go to Kittenbach and go to Kittenbach. messengers come in, and they have one speaker. At the end of the report, he or she can tell us what's gonna happen through the week, what day, the memorial, what day is the funeral. That's how that gets goes. Usually they, once they done that announcement, then they go back out again. And bodies as we gather make a half circle. And we call each person the highest ranked person. And then we
Sit and feed them.
and we do an argument, we bang our date. They each grab the guy, they each grab the guy's hand, walk 10 feet. We always have a guy there that says, key, small key, and so on and so forth. Same thing. If it's a kind of lady that comes in, the guy walks in, the lady. And not like we feed or just or with one secretary. And after he's done, we do our, I don't know how you call it, we give our little money to help them on. Sometimes they say, oh, you need to pay us back. Right? I don't think that's how it works. And after everything's all done, and we do our thank you, you heard the announcement, we'll be there, and we do our spirit and events. That means whoever's going to speak. Each one of us stand there, acknowledge their announcements. And hopefully missing anything out.
Anybody have any additions to that? Thank you. So number 12 is the next question I'm going to. It states, most of us know the responsibilities of those who end in net. What is the actual meaning of end in net?
Token of appreciation.
Token of appreciation.
Yeah, you appreciate your spouse, all that they've done. If you're a Samogit, they live off your land. If you're married to a lady from another clan and you live off the land, you're Entomnach. You're very healthy one, like it could become not just 100 but 1,000. How much you appreciate how they take care of you. You repay in the feast a token of appreciation. You thank them
CST.
for the person you live with.
Is that Roddy? He switched.
Good day.
Is that Roddy? He switched.
That's right, he's got a lot of good friends.
I put out a lot of money, I said,
Got lots of dancers, did you?
yeah, I got lots of dancers, and they're worth every penny.
And you're not Queen Charlotte, Bella Bella, Bella
Oh,
Heidi White.
Clemens, my partner, you know the way.
lots of mattresses.
Any other comments on end of that?
If you don't end up nap, you sleep in the doghouse.
Yeah, that's why I'm learning how to dance. I like that.
Just my observations with NMNet. This is really showing in public your spouse or your partner, and to make people come out of mourning, and for some of them to dress up and make people laugh, to be happy, to come out of that period of mourning and dance around, and yeah.
Dress up. But one thing about alumni, there's a death in Kistiaks, Kidneyao, or Pinuka. Kitigukla will not have drumming at an alumni. If I have the alumni, I just go up and put it in the pot. Because we respect the communities that lost somebody. That's why that alumni is put down to a lower level when there's a death in the community, in our community. Because we're pretty well related to one another.
Oh yeah, you can get in.
Yeah, that's another level of showing respect for sure. Yeah, I think when that does happen, showing the youth or the up and comers exactly why and stuff would be very healthy, and to understand why there was no drums at the happy feast for some reason. How come? Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, token of appreciation. I really like that example or that answer. It really resonates. Number 13. What is GATS? Please share the consequences should this situation arise. I think Roddy brought it up earlier and mentioned the importance of not being involved with cats. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on some of the consequences should this arise?
Well, if it arrives back in the olden days, you know, it's never allowed. It's taboo. Cats is taboo. It's not allowed. But now you look at the reserves, you know, everybody's going with their cousins, because all your cousins are prettier than the other ladies. That's why you picked the pretty one. That's one example why they do that. But it's not allowed in our system. When I was growing up, it wasn't allowed for me to marry somebody and not to be like my mom and dad. Back in the day when Yao used to come to feast in Kijigukla, they would sit another down at the table, and they had soup with the rest of the people in the hall. But when it was time to Hawa, they would jump up and put their Hawa in the pot with the rest of the froggies that are putting money in the pot. So that was my mom's excuse for, because she thought that my dad was from a different community and it still didn't work. They had to separate whenever my dad had a feast in Luhan, he would go and help at the feast. But when mom had feast with Hygien's or Ogalach's house, then she would go and dad would stay home. There's no other way that you could allow cuts to happen, even today. But you see people go to feast the same time, and it really doesn't look right. One chief is sitting over here at the Gironagach table. There's one chief sitting here at the Kispiakslachby to-go table. They're both chiefs and they're cats. That's not right. Because they're from different communities, they think it's okay, but it isn't. I better shut up, I'm gonna get beat up.
That's tough to talk about for sure, but one of those things that definitely need to be discussed here and there. I think there's a couple more additions. I've seen Larry put his hand up.
There's a lot of wisps in plants, lots. You put yourself at risk. You put your house at risk. And you put your family at risk. And whoever you're with, your girlfriend, your wife, you put her at risk. You put her house at risk. There's a lot of wasps. I lost my dad when I was, 10 years old. And my mom, being my dad and my mom were the same. And when I was 10, they all passed on, my dad and his two brothers. Because my dad and my uncle died, they were cats. So there's a lot of wisps in the side Luna with Walter that time, side Luna when they 60 were fast.